As promised, Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan joins us now for Ask Todd. This is your chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions about your specific estate. So, if you've got a question for Todd, the studio line here is 888-205-2263, and we got the phone lines open now. I know the last couple of weeks we haven't been able to get to everyone, so if you want to make sure we get to your question for Todd, give that number a call and get in line. Again, it's 888-205-2263, and the phone lines are open. Todd Lutsky, how are you?
I'm never better. How are you?
Little down, to be honest.
Oh, no.
I got fired from my second job at the clock factory yesterday.
Oh, no. Why?
They said I was putting in too many extra hours.
That's a problem.
Real issue.
Well, you'll get over it.
Real issue. I hope so. But, hey, what are you going to do? Todd, let's talk a little bit about pooled trusts.
Sure.
What the heck are they?
Yeah, they're a weird variety, but they're a great technique, a last-minute technique, which is really just a phenomenal thing. But the reason we need to talk about it is current legislation is pending on this. Now, I'm going to explain what a pooled trust is in a minute, but let me tell you this, that pooled trusts are designed to help people last minute save assets from a nursing home. That's an overview of what it is. But it was being on the chopping block by Mass Health to say, no, we're not going to allow those anymore. And it's okay. It's not more restrictive than the Fed, because the Fed has a different rule for those. So they would be allowed to not do that. Mm-hmm. And so the state and of course, the Massachusetts National Academy of Elder Law chapter, they've been very active on Beacon Hill pushing legislation. You know, they said, well, fine. If Mass Health is going to do that, we're just going to create a piece of legislation to overrule that and have it be carved into law. Well, don't you know, just before Governor Baker left office, he vetoed that piece of legislation.
Okay.
Which means that as of June of this year, we believe it's June of this year, pooled trusts will no longer be available for people to use last minute, except, that's why we're talking about it, that piece of legislation is now brought back to life and is going to be submitted to the new governor's desk. So hopefully it'll be okay.
So what is the pooled trust? What am I pooling? Who am I in a pool with? What happens?
Are you swimming? What are you doing?
Yeah,
So,
am I getting wet? What's going on here?
So at the end of the day, a pooled trust is, so for you folks out there that haven't done planning or that you know are faced with nursing home situations, and either you've not done any planning or you've done planning but there's still assets outside the trust that you were not able to put in during your life, those are assets that are at risk for the cost of long-term care, and more importantly, designed to disqualify you from becoming eligible for Medicaid. Well, what can we do last minute? Well, you could take money, investment portfolios, etc., and transfer them to this pooled trust. Now, a pooled trust is not created by us, not created by lawyers. It's created already out there, and this is designed with Plan of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. They're the charity that's involved. They are the trustee on the trust. And the money goes to them. They put it into an investment vehicle. And again, it can be invested any way the money managers invest it. And as soon as you put it in that trust, it's a non-5-year waiting period. In other words, it's a permissible transfer. It's no longer counted for Mass Health purposes. But it can be used for your benefit. When you die, there's a payback provision to pay back the state. But remember, you're on Medicaid, so the Medicaid rate is half the cost of private pay rate, so that's good. So it does get paid back to the state, and you got to give a little piece to charity. So if you've been in the nursing home less than 2 years, 10% needs to go to charity when you die. If it's 2 years or more, then you need 20% to go to charity, and then after you pay the state back, the balance gets to go to your family. In a nutshell, folks, this is something that says the state wins, the charity wins, the applicant wins, and the family wins.
Who loses?
Nobody loses here, and this is why I can't
Impossible.
understand why this bill should not just fly through and pass. So that's just about how they work, and I want them to stick around. And it's also laid out in our guide as well this month.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. The number for our studio here is 888-205-2263. 2263. We're going to go to a quick break here, but when we come back, it's going to be right to your calls about your estate with Todd. So that number again is 888-205-2263. One last time, it's 888-205-2263. And right after this break, it's your calls with Todd.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Let's go to our first caller here. We've got Mary in Waltham. You are on with Todd Lutsky.
Great, thank you. I just have a question. If you set up an irrevocable trust and then you have multiple CDs that you move around based on when they mature and the different rates that are popping up now, and also like I-bonds and one-year treasuries, if you start moving things around like that, does the lawyer that sets up the trust need to know, and then do any changes need to be made to the trust?
So that's a good question. So the flexibility here of the irrevocable trust is one that allows you to invest in the breadth of the market. Anything you want to invest in, you should be able to invest in just like you could invest if you were doing it individually. So good news there. So CDs, I-bonds, treasury, stocks, bonds. Now, once they are titled in the name of the trust, let's stick with the CD example, and you have those, they come due and you say, okay, well, I'm at ABC Bank, and now I want to go to XYZ Bank, and I see they got a better CD. You simply close this one and move the money. Probably you could even wire it. It's easy enough. Wire it to the next bank. But remember, the new CD that you open up simply needs to be opened up in the name of the trust, just like the old CD was. Same name of the trust, same ID number. And when you do that, nothing changes. When I say nothing changes, I mean you haven't, most importantly, you have not restarted your 5-year clock. Remember, changing CDs, buying and selling stocks and bonds and replacing them with new stocks and bonds or replacing them with new CDs is simply reinvesting the assets that are already in the trust. So you didn't actually take anything out and put something back in to reset the clock. So it doesn't reset the clock. You just continue to move forward. And in terms of contacting the lawyer to do that, likely you don't need to. Okay, the trustee of the trust should be able to go to the institution of choice and invest the money the way they want, just so long as they remember, open the account in the name of the trust under that ID number. Now, don't withdraw the money from the CD, which you can't do under the terms of the trust anyway, and then put it back into a new bank account in the name of the trust. Just transfer it within the trust itself, and you don't need to talk to the lawyer to do that. Same thing with I-bonds, same things with treasuries. Those are a little harder to have owned by the trust, but investment portfolios and like, all of that can be done. So hopefully that was helpful. Do we have a second caller? What I'd like to do next is, we do have another caller, but I wanted to mention my guide. I was a little off track there. Folks, in this case, Mary had already done planning, and so I love the fact that she did that, but many people don't do that. And if they find themselves stuck with not prepared for a nursing home admission, please, folks, this guide we're giving away helps you understand how to save the assets. So in Mary's case, the CDs were in the trust, the I-bonds, the treasury bonds, they're in the trust. But for people that didn't do this, it's not in the trust. They find themselves faced with nursing home care. You need to get the guide in order to learn how to protect those assets last minute, like pooled trusts. Pooled trusts are described in this guide, folks, and they tell you how to use them. Long-term care planning for procrastinators, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. You can learn how to protect assets last minute from the nursing home and not write the check. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, I've got another caller for you. Let's go to Chuck in Dighton. Chuck, you are on with Todd Lutsky.
Hey, Todd, how are you?
Never better. What's up?
I've got a quick question. I don't know if you can answer it or not, but it's a kind of a unique situation I'm kind of stuck in. My mom has been living with her friend for over 10, 15 years. The estate is in, which is a trailer, so to speak, at a trailer park. It's in both their names. What happened was she ended up having to go into a conservatorship, which I had to put her in because her kids' names were on her CDs and everything. They were closing all her accounts, but let that as it be. So I had to get her a conservatorship, which she's in now. She ended up becoming ill, and now she is in I don't want to say a nursing home. It's kind of like a assisted living.
Do you know how much it costs per month?
Roughly around $3,800 a month. And
I
know
that's
with
assisted living. You're right.
Yeah, and I do with her finances. I mean, I know she's probably got, it doesn't really matter, probably about 100 in her finances, 100,000 that the conservatorship is using, obviously, to pay for that.
Got it.
Now, the problem I'm having is the conservatorship is coming back to my mom and basically telling her that she, either has to sell the house or give half of the value of the house, basically, forcing or kicking my 80-year-old mother out of her home. Now, is there any legalities that I can stop this, or the state or whatever, they can put a lien on the house until time comes when, my mom passes, or I'm very concerned of what I can do for my mom.
Does she own this? It's a trailer, you said, right? Like a mobile home?
Correct.
And is her name on the certificate of title? I assume they don't own the real estate.
Yes.
So is her name on the certificate of title?
Yes.
Okay. So
I do believe so.
I'm going to say it's a little hard for me to, address a conservatorship without looking at the terms of the conservatorship. So bear with me, but let me at least tell you this. It would seem to me that when you're dealing with Medicaid anyway, and I know you're not here, if you have a house, the house is usually a non-countable asset while you're alive, right? And so they don't force you to sell it during life. Generally, they might put a lien on it because they want to recover later, but they don't force you to sell it. Now, if she's in an assisted living facility, and she's got $100,000, I don't think you have to sell the house now because she's got plenty of money to continue to pay the assisted living facility. Now, having said that, if that money runs out and she's still in the assisted living facility, they don't generally take Medicaid. So you really have no choice but to private pay that facility. And in order to private pay that facility, if she is in fact out of money, then she may have to sell her interest in the house in order to get money to pay that facility. So yeah, I think that can happen. And if not, they're probably going to kick her out of the facility. Now, if her significant other has the same problem, I guess she could be faced with having to buy out his half of the house if they're forcing him to sell it. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. I would say probably hold off on selling the house as long as you can, since you have $100,000 in it for now. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful.
Todd Lutsky, appreciate you joining us as always.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com.